Hi everyone, and welcome to the Wolf Townships. So this video is why trapping should be banned in Alaska, and I'm going to give common sense, logical, and practical reasons as to why. On my previous video, I discussed the Wolf Townships in relation to Denali National Park and how it is critical winter habitat for Denali's wolves and caribou. With trapping season fast approaching, beginning on November 1st, I thought we should discuss why trapping should be banned throughout all of Alaska. While some may consider trapping to be a sacred cow that should never be challenged, I feel just the opposite. The following bullet points are why I believe this destructive sacred cow should be served up into a tasty barbecue and ended. Trappers themselves have made compiling this list easy due to their cruelty, irresponsibility, and brazenness. Starting with this one. Trapping is inherently cruel towards wildlife and any pet dogs that it catches. Essentially, traps and snares are biological landmines that catches anything that steps into them. Trapping is arbitrary what it catches either with traps or snares. Trapping not only catches intended wildlife, but also wildlife such as moose, eagles, or even pet dogs. There's no mandatory trap checks by law in Alaska state lands, which includes the Wolf Townships here. In other words, a trapper can place his traps at the beginning of trapping season, beginning on November 1st, and not check them until the end of trapping season, which is on April 30th. This means that a wild animal or a dog caught in them can suffer for days and or up to 2 weeks until they finally die. Trappers are not required to place warning signs to notify the public of their trap lines. Trappers are not required to place identification and contact information signs on their individual traps or snares. Trappers can legally place traps and snares near parking lots, pullouts, campgrounds, and hiking, ski, and multiple-use trails where people recreate with their dogs. In fact, this past year, 4 dogs were caught in traps on a trail system behind an elementary school in Homer. There are no trapping setbacks from trails, and in fact, the president of the Alaska Trappers Association testified against them on March 17, 2023, of the Alaska Board of Game meeting in Soldotna. And I'm including the link to that testimony because I filmed it. And so he came out against proposals for setbacks. And the Alaska Board of Game has refused to authorize them in Wasilla Palmer, Seward, Soldotna, and Homer, with the one exception of a trail at Kachemak State Park. Trappers are not required to compensate dog owners for vet bills for any dogs that trappers injure or kill. Trappers target and kill Denali National Park wolves as they leave the park for adjacent state lands during the winter months. This area right here, the Wolf Townships. This has severely disrupted wolf family structure within these family groups, led to cascading changes in family group behavior such as travel, hunting, territorial shifting, reduced use of the park road, shifting of rendezvous and den sites, or led to family group disintegration. It further has severely impacted visitor viewing of wolves within Denali since 2011. After the baited trapping and killing of the Grant Creek female in 2012, Denali wolf viewing immediately declined to 4 to 6%, rose to 17% in 2018 due to Riley Creek West rendezvous sites in the Toklat area, and in 2019 and 2022, it declined to 1% of visitor viewing of wolves. Okay, quoting from the website of wolfmatters.org on the topic of strangulation and jellyheads. Dr. J. Diaz, a professor in the Department of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Calgary, has researched the time it takes for canids to die from strangulation. His conclusion is that death can take hours through an extremely painful and slow process. Dr. Diaz notes that he cannot comprehend the decision of governments to elicit this kind of suffering and pain to a living being. Another common cause of death in canids that become trapped in killing neck snares is a phenomenon known as exploded brain, or as trappers call them, jellyheads. This is a cruel and agonizing death for the victim. Jellyhead occurs when the snare constricts the jugular vein on the outside of the neck, cutting off blood returning to the heart. Meanwhile, the carotid artery continues to pump blood into the brain, causing brain swelling and eventual rupture. A mammal scientist in Maine for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife was conducting a study of snared coyotes when he noticed an alarming trend. After he checked 94 snared coyotes, he noticed a large proportion of carcasses that had fractured limbs, broken teeth, bullet holes, and grotesquely swollen heads were jellyheads. In a memo to his supervisor, Jacobus wrote, "Anyone who has had a migraine knows what it feels like to have swollen blood vessels in the head. To have blood vessels burst because of pressure must be excruciating." Almost 1/3 of the animals Jacobus examined were jellyheads. Almost another third had been clubbed or shot, indicating that snares do not kill quickly. Additionally, longtime Maine trapper Bill Randall said the sight of an animal that died in a neck snare was the goriest visual display of animal cruelty he had ever seen. Trappers use snares because they are cheap and because they can saturate an area with them, which maximizes catching and slowly killing anything that enters that baited kill zone. Trapping and snaring literally tortures, maims, and kills wildlife and pet dogs in an arbitrary fashion. It is inherent to trapping. The next time you see a wolf, coyote, fox, lynx, or wolverine pelt in an Alaska gift shop, hotel, or furrier, I want you to ask yourself, how long did that animal suffer in that trap or snare? Also, what does this say about tourism-related businesses that sells furs? And how is this supporting wildlife viewing and visitor enjoyment in Denali or anywhere else? Does buying any kind of fur help support and promote the sadistic, arbitrary, and unregulated cruelty that impacts our wildlife and pet dogs? And if it does, then why would anyone ever knowingly buy such a fur? It is common for trappers to defend their recreation by claiming it is a long-standing tradition and way of life. Yes, it is, one that targets, tortures, maims, and kills wildlife and dogs. Sadistic and destructive traditions are ones well worth dumping into the sewage lagoon of our collective past. Keeping them to placate up to 3,000 sadistic Alaska trappers is a betrayal of wildlife, pet and sled dogs, and our better natures. I ask all of you to join me in supporting a trap-free Alaska. This wolf was initially snared just to the north of the park and outside of it, and then it came into the park and started showing up on the pavement stretch of the park road. And as you can see, the snare is really dug into this wolf's neck, and the head is swollen. And that's very common with snares. Snares usually don't actually choke wolves to death because wolves have very strong neck muscles. What it usually does is it constricts the jugular vein on the outside of the neck, cutting off blood returning to the heart, and then the carotid artery continues to pump blood into the brain, causing brain swelling and eventual rupture. And trappers refer to this as jellyhead. Now, Park Service did intervene in this particular case. They did capture the wolf. They removed the remains of the snare, and they gave the wolf antibiotics, and then, of course, released it. Hi everyone, and welcome to a very snow-covered Wolf Townships. So in my previous segments, I had talked a lot about the Wolf Townships and also why we should ban trapping in the second video. I'd like you all to do, and what I'd like you to do is to be able to support the National Park Service proposal to protect all the Wolf Townships. And so when the Board of Game finally starts taking public comment, please write down a few comments in support of the Park Service proposal, or if you really feel motivated, to travel up to Fairbanks and testify in person. But what all of this will do is it's going to put public attention on this very issue. And this isn't just about protecting the wolves, it's also about offering Denali visitors a full and rich wilderness experience. This doesn't mean a guarantee that they'll see wolves or hear them, but it does mean that they would actually have a realistic opportunity to have that experience. Currently, right now, this past summer, I had 3 sightings all summer long of wolves. Last year, it was only 2 sightings. The year before that, it was 0 sightings. And so what the hunters and trappers are doing here has significantly impacted not only wolf family group dynamics, but also the visitor viewing of the park's wolves and the overall visitor experience. Few of them, or where people don't get a chance to see them, that really degrades the wilderness experience of Denali National Park. You have to have that opportunity to have that full, rich wilderness experience to where you actually have a chance to hear them or see them or both. Without that, it really degrades the wilderness experience of Denali. And so this ask is for individuals, it's for businesses, it's for dog owners. If you're a dog owner and you're not really interested in wolves or wildlife for that matter, well, guess what? Trapping and snaring also impacts you as well and your dog. I don't want to see or hear anyone have to go through the trauma of trying to remove a snare or remove their dog from a trap. No one should have to be able to go through that. And so if you're a cross-country skier, snowshoer, dog musher, ski-jourer, or someone who likes to go winter camping with your dog, all of this concerns you. And again, you shouldn't have to be paranoid about taking your dog out to recreate and with the possibility of it getting trapped or snared. And so I'd really like to bring dog owners and wolf enthusiasts and wilderness enthusiasts and national park enthusiasts and people who just want to have that full, rich experience in Denali, bring everyone together in regards to this issue and try to have it addressed eventually. Very issue. And then the other thing to look out for in the early part of 2024 is a new documentary called A Good Wolf, which is going to discuss this very issue here in the Wolf Townships. It interviews hunters and trappers, and it interviews those folks who wish to have wolves protected. And it discusses the differences in values that these two groups have. So be sure to check that out. That's also going to certainly increase attention on this very issue, as it certainly should. So thank you for sticking with me for this long. Thank you for listening or watching both videos, or one or the other. And I really do appreciate it, and certainly appreciate your attention and also any and all support that you may give to this very issue. Thanks again.